What am I supposed to say again?
What kind of podcast is this?
Bad Playstyle is a book club podcast.
For video games.
For video games. Welcome to Season 3 of Bad Playstyle. This is our infinite spoiler warning. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear that Metroid is a girl. Or that Zelda's a boy. There, how's that? Yeah.
We swears a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't like that,
You say bad words.
you could send corrections to...
Badplaystyle@gmail.com.
Buzz down. Alright, so, hey, this is Bad Playstyle. My name's Matt.
I'm Keenan.
Hi, I'm Owen.
Okay. We played Dwarf Fortress this period.
It was fun.
I enjoyed it.
Losing is fun.
Losing is fun.
I didn't lose, though, which was...
You didn't play long enough.
Yeah.
Like,
That's always been my attitude.
It'll happen.
You didn't try hard enough.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't win either. I'm not trying to...
Nah, no one wins.
I'm not trying to claim victory over Dwarf Fortress. That would be...
Foolish.
That would be foolish.
The enemy is
That would be
bald
foolish and ridiculous. So, Owen, you literally, just moments before we started recording, told me that you played more Dwarf Fortress. So, do you want... Hey, let's just start with Owen. Owen,
What's up?
what's the video games? Where are you at with the video games?
With Dwarf Fortress or other games?
Like,
What
all,
have you
like
played,
both?
sir?
All of them? Like, talk about it.
I mean, I played a ton of Dwarf Fortress.
Okay.
Oh shit!
We can get into more detail on that further along in the time space.
I already forgot the name of the game I looked up on my Switch. Let me mash the home button a few times.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about my games I've been playing.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
I played a game called Wheels of Aurelia.
Whoa, that sounds like Aurelia means truth in Latin, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a game about you. I haven't played it much, so like I can't.
What is?
It's not. Go ahead.
It's a game about going on a road trip in Europe in like the 70s or something like
That's
that.
dope.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a really cool
It's
setting.
weird.
Does it have a cool art style, like water tastes like wine, or?
It kind of looks like you're playing. It's like Crossy Road level voxely graphics.
Okay. All right.
And it's just like you driving a car down the highway, and like the car will kind of drive itself, and if you want to, you can drive into opposing traffic, but there's like literally no consequences. Like you just kind of bounce off and keep going, and like your character, it's a very like talky, like almost like a visual novel.
Okay.
And the fact that you can drive the car is just like to keep your hands busy.
Keep you doing something.
I haven't played a whole lot, but like I thought it was really neat.
I'm glad.
What was it? What was it we played? It was Sybil.
Yeah.
It's like you do something very tedious while
Yeah.
the game. Like,
Yeah. Simple's like a good
Exposits at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You like maybe have more to do with your hands than you do in Sybil.
Sure, I'm not saying Sybil's like the gold standard of that kind of gameplay.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
might be for when it came out.
I was just trying to relate it to something I'd already played.
Yeah.
And that hopefully a viewer has played and will relate to in the conversation that we're
pretty good.
having
Yeah,
with the viewer.
I'd give Wings of Aurelia a couple Nina Freemans for sure.
Yeah, cool. All right. I'm into that.
Just throw them on the fire.
I've been playing.
Oh, I don't
I've been
like this
playing,
imagery.
been playing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
That's a good game.
Yeah, it is a really
You got
good
the
game.
DLC, right?
Yeah, I bought the DLC. I haven't done most of the DLC. Like, one of the DLC things is just like a bunch of fan servicey shit. It
Yep.
adds to the world that you can go collect, and I've been like doing that, and it adds like some UI features, and I've been doing that.
Does
Did
it
you
make,
buy the-
does
did
it
you
make
get-
Zelda's butt jiggle more? Or?
No, like you can go find Majora's Mask and like
okay.
put it on.
Did you get the horse armor?
Because when somebody
Yeah,
says
the horse armor's really good.
when somebody
Horse armor, full
says
circle.
when somebody says okay, well, but that would imply that DLC was like over, which I guess is kind of true because we're like on to microtransactions.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, when somebody says fan service to me, I always instantly imagine that that's like some sort of erotica.
Oh no!
Right? Like
no.
so.
The new
That's.
Disney movie had a lot of fan service. Like,
Yeah.
no,
Why did you do that?
no.
Okay, so people. Owen put his. What are those?
Joy Cons.
No, that's
Yeah,
not. That
that's-
can't be what they're
That
called.
is what they're called.
Oh god.
Sorry, man.
They're
He put
joysticks.
them on backwards on his Switch, and
Now the screen is facing away from
So I can
him.
hold it up for them to see while I do the controls.
it's display mode. Anyway.
What else did you play on?
I played a bunch of Star Trek Timelines.
Yep.
'Cause that game is sweet.
And we did jump back into some PUBG.
Yeah.
It was a group.
It turns out that our friend Sean is not the social glue that makes us play PUBG.
I'm putting my hand up and wiggling it in a kind of gesture.
That's what you've been playing less. Like, I get home from work, if I don't have something to be doing after work,
Yeah.
like, I'm booting up PUBG.
Owen's like, yo, PUBG, and I'm like, yo, I could play a game with a person today. That sounds great.
And I had my first, like, catastrophic physics glitch in PUBG where Keenan and I were driving a minibus and a pickup truck crashed into us and the pickup truck took off like a rocket engine fired when this happened and threw our minibus like 400 feet.
Like a quarter mile.
Yeah.
Like it was a solid distance.
It was ridiculous. So yeah, PUBG's been good. Timelines has been good. I got silly characters in timelines.
It's good. It's a good time. Am I next or are you?
Good time. Lines.
Yep. Yep.
Nah, I'll go.
Okay.
I don't really have much to say, because I've been playing Pillars of Eternity and Dwarf Fortress, and those are the only things of note that I've been playing. But I've been playing lots of both of those.
I think I might have played more Warframe than you in the last couple days.
Definitely. Well, mostly because all my effort has been going into Pillars of Eternity. So, for those of you who don't know me personally, or haven't gotten the idea, I'm a bit of a munchkin. And it's, as time has gone on, I've attempted to temper that influence when I'm around people. But when I'm in a CRPG, there's no reason for me to be nice to the GM, because the GM doesn't know me personally, and also, can't react to the horrible cheese that I'm doing to it. So, yeah.
Been feeding that monster.
The stat system in Pillars is maddeningly subtle. It's... yeah.
Perhaps it's designed to deal with people like you?
No, it's not, because you can do things that are horrible to that game. But it's just, it's not intuitive the way that, other RPG systems have been to me, in a way that's really, really grabs me. It's really engaging, yeah.
So what you're telling me is that maybe you're not quite ready to do a solo Path of the Damned run?
Oh, I'm 100% not ready to do that, although I found out that druids are way broken. Well, they're not broken, but, they're way good.
Yeah.
A level 1 druid on hard is just whatever. Just, eat everything, turn into a cat and eat everybody. It's great. So I've been doing that.
Seems like a cool way to live. Turn into a cat and eat everybody.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Well, so you turn into a cat and you have about 30 seconds to eat everybody. But it's usually enough time.
I was about to say,
So,
you're a cat.
Yeah. So, and then, swarms of bees everywhere. That's cool, too. Yeah.
Don't fight him. Bees and cats show up.
Yeah.
Wait, cats don't eat a lot. What cats are you talking about? Have you ever seen a cat eat?
Yo, but if a cat needs to kill 5 things in a room, it can do it.
I think he meant eat more in the colloquial, render you into, spare meat.
Okay.
To be fair, I didn't start with eat. I just worked with it. You said eat.
Okay. Maybe that's what I meant, and that's why I knew.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Anyway, I also played Dwarf Fortress, which was an adventure in hotkeys. And learning them.
Man, that's going on the episode title list.
Yeah.
An adventure, not keys.
But, yeah, I made a little fort, and goblins came, and then the goblins just left.
Well, yeah, if they can't get in your fort for long enough, they'll leave. Because I believe they bring finite supplies.
We got shit to do.
But I paused the game because I was playing after you had left that night, because we were usually hanging out on Discord when I was playing, and the goblin invasion came, and I was like, I have literally no idea how to deal with this, and I'm not going to sift through the menus and try and figure out how to lock this door. And then we locked the door. The other thing was I wasn't sure that locking the door would be a fix-all,
right?
And also, most of my dwarves were outside chopping wood at the time, and I didn't know how to make them stop doing that. So you told me how to like make them go hang out in the big hall full of mastercrafted objects, chairs, and gravestones that I have downstairs. And I made them do that.
Seems like a party room.
It's a good room. And it was a slowly getting smaller room.
Yeah.
We don't want ghosts. So, yeah, and then the goblins, like, almost immediately after I did those two things, locked the door and put all the dwarves away, we're just like, okay, bye. Like, they didn't even stick around for, like, a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never had a goblin invasion bounce out that quick.
Yeah, it was just, like basically, as soon as I had finished doing those actions and was just kind of, like, sitting there, making them do, like, other stuff, as soon as I went and checked the second time, they were already gone.
Those boys were on a schedule.
They were on a schedule. But to be fair, like, 7 goblins showed up.
Oh, okay.
So it was like goblin invasion, and I looked over and it was like 7 goblins.
Did it say curse them in ambush or something like that?
No.
Did it actually say siege at the top?
It said siege at the top. Remember you asked me that question at the time.
Okay, yeah. Because like goblins all of a sudden like attack parties first, and then before they like officially call it a siege. But a siege, the numbers they bring is dependent on how many goblins live in their little goblin hideout.
But yeah, they brought 7 goblins, and then I hit 2 years, and then I started playing Pillars. So that was kind of
alright.
That was kind of it. That was what we had agreed upon. 2 years. I think I may try to go back to it at some point, but the whole like you make your own goals, like construction build a block games. They've never grabbed me.
It can be too open
for whatever reason.
Yeah, like
I don't know
need
why.
some direction.
Yeah, I need some context with which to create my own long-term goals, and that's why like the paradox games really appeal to me, right? Because there's like the context of like world history of like I could do this really weird thing that never actually happened in world history because that's funny,
right?
You know, and that's like that becomes the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like turning all of Africa into the Papal States, right?
Or that time you captured the Pope as the Muslims.
Yeah, that was great too.
Like,
yeah, the time I converted the province of Rome to Sunni Islam, that was great. You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but there's a framework there that those other games
there's
lack.
like a framework that, well, I don't think that Dwarf Fortress lacks that framework. I just think that it doesn't have, like, tooth holds that I want to bite onto.
Okay.
Right?
See, for me, the major driving force is, like, before I can get into any, like, crazy, like, mega goals for myself, I always want my fortress to be in a position where it can reasonably defend itself against... like
whatever
the checklist of things that can show up at my door and can sustain itself, and I almost never reach the point where I can defend against all the things and sustain myself in all the ways that I want to. So I never run out of shit to do.
So it's like a,
you never go, okay, time to do something big and dumb.
For you, it's like, so I used to play League of Legends to my great shame. And I still keep up with a few of the personalities from the era that when I did play League of Legends. And Cutie Pie was talking about this, about how like for him in League of Legends, it's not about like winning anymore. It's about solving the puzzle of how to win.
Okay.
Right. So like you have this ideal state that your fort can be to, right? And then you have all these moving pieces that you need to fit into getting to that ideal state, right? Like it's like a Rubik's Cube. Like
well, and also like dealing with the random nonsense that comes up. That's like obstacles.
Sure. So like I don't have that ideal state, I guess, in my head.
You don't have a platonic dwarf fortress.
Yeah. So I think
build.
That's like a thing that I'm like missing. So anyway, before we get too deep on Dwarf Fortress, Keenan should talk about the video games he played since last time.
So first thing, I jumped in, like, I'm playing a game one night, and I see Owen boot up Star Trek Timelines on Steam.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Oh, shit, that's a
that
thing? Okay.
Yeah, so I found out the phone game I play is on Steam, and I can log into the same account from my phone on it. And because Dwarf Fortress ain't a Steam game, I can have Star Trek Timelines open and Dwarf Fortress open. And anytime I set like a ton of tasks for my fort to do, and there's nothing for me, the player, to input, I just alt-tab over to Timelines and spend my chronotons and send out my shuttle missions.
I love that they're fucking chronotons. It's
so
dumb.
My girlfriend and I will refer to them as crons for short when her and I talk back and forth. But I've noticed that they also sometimes in the marketing material on the purchase page will say like, 1 million crons for $24 or something like that. It's just like, yeah, you guys get it.
That's best value right there. So yeah, I've been getting all kinds of best value propositions out of a phone game on my computer.
Yeah, on the computer with huge buttons.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I remember. Okay, so like 2 nights ago, I had forgotten that Keenan had installed this phone game on his computer.
I don't know that I've installed it. It keeps downloading stuff.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to the bathroom, and when I go to the bathroom, I briefly can glimpse into Keenan's room and see what he's doing on his computer, and I see the lowest poly, like, Star Trek ship I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, what the fuck game is he playing? And then I see one of those, like, sprites that they have for the people, and I was like, oh, it's the phone game. Okay.
Were you doing an arena battle or something?
I think it was one of the battles in one of the mission tracks.
Oh, sure.
I haven't gotten to arena yet.
Okay. Let me know when you get to level 20, because then we can get you in our fleet.
Okay.
But, like, we'll have to coordinate that because our fleet is full.
Okay.
So we have to wait for, like, one of those rare moments where, like, a dude gets kicked out, and then I'll, like, text you, like, Keenan, join the fleet now!
Alright, well, as I remain jobless, that should be easy to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been playing that, and it's real dumb.
Who's your best Star Trek man?
Captain Geordi LaForge is still kicking strong.
Oh, yeah, that's for the listeners at home. That's Geordi from the alternate timeline in Voyager, where Voyager, everyone on it dies and is buried in ice.
Yep.
And Geordi becomes the captain of the USS Challenger. The episode's called Timeless. I think it's in season 6. It's actually the one good episode of Voyager, in my opinion.
Geordi comes along to save the show.
It's also directed by him. That's why he's in it. Because like LeVar Burton was on the set for that week anyway.
Yeah, it's like, why not put him in front of the camera?
That's cool.
Yeah, LeVar Burton's cool. Voyager sucks.
That dude's got real good stats.
Let's move on.
Compared to everyone.
Send corrections to your own asshole, because Voyager sucks.
Yeah, we've been running through Star Trek. Me and my girlfriend we're watching DS9. She's like, I want to go watch Voyager. That's the one I remember. And I'm like, no, you don't. We don't want to do that. We'll do this, and then you can do that. Like, yeah. So yeah, I've been playing that, and then it's probably like 2 weeks ago now, I accidentally fell into watching the Rainbow Six Invitational, because they do that every year. For Siege.
Oh, is there competitive?
Yeah, there's like a weird
so
scene.
much competitive.
Really?
Like,
It's
so much competitive. Yeah, that game's like got a really big competitive scene.
That game has grown instead of shrunk since it came out.
Well, yeah, I know their sales are doing well.
Yeah, so yeah, they have a pretty solid competitive scene. The finals ended up being 2 NA teams, which was really refreshing watching esports.
What?
But there's no Koreans, so that's probably why.
Yep.
Yeah. The reason there's no Koreans in the top 10 is because Koreans don't play this game.
Yeah, it's a very NA Europe game. There were Brazilian groups, but
it's just like Counter-Strike.
Yeah, it's the same sort of spread. That game gets really interesting in pro play. Like, they do really cool things that are actually achievable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, as a player.
Yeah, I remember, like, the video you had me watch about, like, the character in the game, Buck.
Yeah.
Whose thing is that he has an underslug shotgun. And, like, for me, I'm like, it takes too much time to switch. Like, what use is that in a firefight? And they're actually talking about, like, oh, no, it's useful for, like, these things, like blowing holes in floors and shooting through them.
Yeah.
You know?
Buck gets in your building and demolishes the inside of it to kill
That's
you.
not the thing you say. You say Buck likes to fuck.
He does.
Yeah.
Him named Buck. Easier to fuck.
Yeah.
Him named Buck.
Him named Buck. Him like fuck.
Quinn and I it was 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Is this like the Rainbow Siege equivalent of giving lumps and taking lumps?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. So yeah, that game's weird. Someone once described it recently. I was watching a how to play video, and someone was like, "Hey, do you like Overwatch and Counter-Strike? Because you're playing both of them at once. Because it's literally like characters with superpowers.
You can fly and shoot missiles?
No. The superpowers are a little tamer than that.
Yeah, but like that's the idea, right? Like you're playing superpower characters in a Counter-Strike type environment.
Sure.
This is the whole
Okay,
thing.
cool.
And yes, the Egyptian lady Pharaoh.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of that and enjoying it and like doing okay, and that's fun. And the reason I left that game like a year ago was because everyone was an asshole Nazi 14-year-old in that game.
Yeah, that tends to happen in first-person shooters.
Ever since they allowed a report toxic behavior button, there's way fewer of those people in my games.
That's good.
So that's cool. I've been meeting decent people and communicating and playing games with them, and that is neat. Yeah. So that, and then I fell into Warframe again, so I've been doing that.
Sure.
Keenan's been sending me messages at work about builds that I discovered like a year ago.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, man.
And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, so those games are all big time things. Oh, and I played some Dwarf Fortress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Dwarf Fortress.
Meow! Alright, so commence the talking about
It's
Dwarf
time for
Fortress.
Dwarf Fortress.
Keenan, so, like, not to make the viewer keep hearing your voice, but, you said you had a story.
I kind of, yeah.
Well, should we preface this with a description of what Dwarf Fortress is?
I suppose that's probably
on you,
in
bro.
order.
Sure. So, like, in case you didn't listen last week, and, like, somehow didn't play the game, I'm sure you all did.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Okay, in case you've been under a rock forever,
Yeah.
right? Like, Dwarf Fortress is the biggest game.
Yeah. Tarn Adams started working on it, like, 10 years
It's the
ago.
biggest-
Yeah,
not
it's
big
been
game.
it's been
Or I
the,
should say Tarn and Zach Adams.
it's been the top seller on Bay 12
Bay
game
12 game.
for like 10 years now. Yeah.
It's killing the market.
Yeah, so it's like
They
it's
came
like an
out.
old style roguelike type display.
Mm-hmm. It's
Uh,
all Unicode.
Yeah, everyone always calls it ASCII
Boom.
characters. It's not ASCII characters, it's Unicode
You heard me
characters.
stop for a second.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because you were about to say Darkwave and you stopped yourself.
Yep, exactly.
And so it's all...
Don't do that one again.
the whole display is made out of, like, little letters and symbols and crap. You
Little
know,
dwarves going, oh no!
little ampersands and upper and lowercase letters in different colors.
Cats are lowercase c's.
That's right. What is a gray uppercase C, Keenan?
Oh no. It's not
Took too long. It's a giant crow. It's a crow the size of a llama.
Shit, I didn't know this shit was real.
I love gigantism in that game.
Oh, it's the best. So anyway, it's like a city management game. You dig out holes underground, and your dwarves move around, and you can't control them directly, but you can give orders.
I mean,
It's
I feel
that type of management game.
I feel like saying like it's a city management game sells Dwarf Fortress short.
Yeah, but like also, what the fuck else? Do you
Yeah, I
call
mean,
it?
like, no, I get, like, that's what I was getting at. Like, it's fair to call it a city management game, because what the fuck else is it? But at the same time, like, Cities Skylines has fucking nothing on Dwarf Fortress,
Yeah.
right? Like,
yeah, no, like Dwarf Fortress is the city management game to end city management games. Like
wasn't the original thesis, like, games have bad geology, I want to make good geology?
Well, no, it's that oh God, what was it? There was it's like Tarn Adams like making a joke about crappy fantasy writing. He says something along the lines of like most fantasy novels sound like they were computer generated.
Oh, so I'm going to make a computer-generated fantasy
Well, I'm
novel.
going to make a trash generator,
Okay.
a fantasy trash generator, or
awesome.
something like that.
that's awesome because that's totally one of the functions of world building in that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it generates a trashy legendarium.
Yeah, so
Where, like, there's a demon who's, like, the king of an elf nation.
yeah,
Yeah.
and takes the form of an elf and like lives in seclusion.
Yeah. I love those screenshots from Adventure Mode, which is the other way you can play this game. You can
You
play
can
it
play
in
it as a roguelike.
Yeah, you can play it as a roguelike, like literally.
Which is the only way the creator plays it, right?
That's what he said. He said that in the past. I don't know if that's still the case. That's what he would say like 4 or 5 years ago when I followed Dwarf Fortress more closely.
Okay.
But I love like all the screenshots of them being like, you know, you go up to the ruler of this land, and the ruler's like, "What's your quest?" And you're like, "I'm trying to find this demon," and then it's like. This demon replies, "Well, you found him," and like cuts your arm off.
My favorite is I read a story about a dude who he was like out exploring in adventure mode, and he finds this tower, and he goes up to the top of the tower, and there are 7 goblins on top of it, and they're all sleeping. And he has an enormous hammer, and so he croquet whacks them each off the tower, and they all like fall to their deaths, right? And then he like saves and quits his game and opens up the legend viewer, and so you can just like read about all the myriad people in your generated world. And one of the things about goblins in Dwarf Fortress is they don't die of old age. They only die if they're struck down in combat.
Yeah.
So this,
God.
well, so here's
Why
the
don't
thing.
they own everything?
Here's the thing, though, is that this was like a order of goblin monks, so they didn't go off and start fights, so they never died or something like that. And so
he just storms their tower and fucks their shit up.
so single-handedly, he destroyed a like 1,000-year-old goblin monk brotherhood in like one night.
Because the wonderful thing,
That's good fantasy.
the wonderful thing about the thing that goblins never die unless you kill them is that like most goblins are just total shit.
Yeah, they're total
Right?
assholes.
And they're like aggressive and they're buttholes, but you can reach this like
Goblins are
weird
like the
critical.
small frat boys of fantasy.
You can reach this weird critical mass of like weapon skill on goblins where they just like fuck everything up. You
and so like the leaders of goblin tribes will typically be very, very old,
Yeah.
or at least this used to be the case. Maybe they changed it. I haven't looked in the world.
But it was the case at one point.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is the kind of thing that Dwarf Fortress generates. Like, there's this whole thing where there was like, I remember reading some patch notes where like he accidentally turned up the amount of like armor piercing that moles' teeth have too much, and so they were doing a new hunting strategy where they were like shooting out of the ground into horses' faces and straight into their brains and killing them instantly and then eating the horses. And I was like, moles aren't supposed to do that.
Yeah, no, like there's all kinds of stories of that kind of thing happening.
There's this kind of like weird procedural horse shit that's just fucking wonderful to hear.
Although, honestly, the amount of nonsensically superpowered wildlife has gone down tremendously over the years.
Well, but most of those are accidents, right?
Well, no, I mean they're all unintentional, but like
the whole scorpions and archery targets thing.
Yeah, well, they just changed the prioritization on building destroyer, or like the way carp would drown people. Carp used to be the deadliest creatures in the game
because dwarves fish with their beards.
Well, no. That's an inferred detail. You don't know that's true.
I accept
Dwarves
it.
fish without any equipment.
And therefore, probably fish with their beards.
What if they just snatch the fish out of the river like in Mulan, you know? Like, you don't know they don't do that.
Be swift as the rain.
Yeah, okay, I'm into that. But the carp, they fight back.
Yeah. So like the carp would pull dwarves into the water and drown them and stuff because of like, I don't know, stuff. So tell me about your fortresses, boys.
Well, I told you what happened in my fortress. We did 3 things very well. We made plump helmet wine, and we made lavish meals out of eggs and plump helmets.
Do you want to know a funny thing about eggs? So Dwarf Fortress has like a very in-depth like materials system in it, where when like objects are made out of a certain material, when other forces act on them, they behave in a certain way. Like if you build your walls of your fortress out of soap, which you can do.
Yeah.
If that soap is exposed to certain temperatures, like soap has like a melting point in Dwarf Fortress. So like under the right circumstances, the walls of your fortress can melt if you make it out of soap.
Okay. Is there no way to like do the subtle strength of an egg? So like eggs are a great building material or something?
No. So here's the thing. Technically, the material that eggs are made out of is the shell. All of it.
Okay. Okay, so eggs
way
are just
the math-
shells.
So when you cook a dwarven egg, when you cook a dwarven egg into a meal, it still maintains the material properties of the egg shell.
Oh, okay.
So they just like throw the whole egg in, and like maybe the takeaway is that the whole thing's made of shell.
Here, eat a bunch of like chitin.
Yeah, because like the material system, I guess, just isn't granular enough to say.
Yeah. So there's no way to like capture the subtlety of what an egg is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my fortress was very boring. We made food, and it was very good food, like very expensive food, because we made way too much food.
Oh, sure.
Because you were like, you only need this much farm and this much chickens, and I was like, whatever. And then we had way too many chickens.
Oh, well, yeah, the chickens will just crap out eggs like there's no tomorrow.
And we had way too many eggs, and then our farm was like about 10 times bigger than you said it needed to be.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's something you should actually avoid, because it'll stop your dwarves from doing other more important work if you have seeds laying around.
I had a lot of dwarves, but yeah, whatever. Yeah, and then like tons of migrants showed up, because it was a really nice place to live. And then those goblins showed up that one time. Oh, we had a were creature, but he immediately left.
What kind of were creature did you have?
It was a were elk. So it was a dude running around with like giant elk horns, and
that sounds terrifying.
He ran onto the screen.
Some Earl King shit.
He ran onto the screen. Oh, right, I remember this. That was the one fight I had where I had to make the militia. He ran onto the screen and he killed some dude chopping down a tree. He just like really fast too. He just ran up to him like wah, and just like kicked his head off. And then
that's kind of how were creatures do though. Like,
yeah, and then
supposed to be had antlers.
I had all 7 of the original dwarves plus 3 other dudes go beat him up. Because the militia screen wouldn't let me draft more things than that. I couldn't figure out how to do it. So they went up to him, and the Forge Father, the expedition leader, got up to him first and got his head kicked off. Too, like instantly died. And then the other 9 dwarves showed up in a big pack and like wrestled him to the ground and beat him up.
So,
Yeah.
Logomir Construct has been struck down.
Yeah, so they killed him. And those were the two interesting things that happened in my fort. I think I picked an embark that was like super calm.
Sure.
And just was like, yeah, you got water, you got trees. There's no civilizations like anywhere near here.
Well, there was clearly a goblin civ.
Yeah, but it was really small.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that when you're starting too, right?
Yeah, but it was like I said, it didn't generate anything wacky, and nothing bad happened in my fort really. There was like, 4 of the 5 or 7 forge fathers. One of them was just dead, and then the other 3 were laid up with permanent injuries in the hospital, making it stank constantly. Yeah. Like that was their life now.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you were getting miasma in the hospital, it means that something's dead there.
Oh yes, because one of the guys who fought the elk guy, he was the first guy who got there. He didn't die instantly, but he was gonna, and then he did.
Sure.
So they threw him away.
Which is better than the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And living in
nobody turned into a werewolf. Like we had to block off that room, and then Owen was like, "Hey, how long's it been?" And I told him the month, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're cool. Those guys are fine." So I got really lucky with that one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had a really bad run-in with some were-chameleons on my fortress.
Oh, I don't want to fight those. They just come out of the wall.
Well, I remember you having all sorts of trouble trying to get your vampire to kill the were-chameleon.
Yeah. There's whole, what we do in the Shadows style comedy drama going on.
So essentially I think we had figured out that the vampire was standing next to the were-chameleon when he was transformed and going like, sleep. 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 And the were-chameleon was just like, where's that coming from?
So, on my first fortress, a were-chameleon came and showed up and killed a couple dudes, and I threw my pitiful military at it, and he butchered the military, but we killed him. And so I had a number of injured dwarves, and one of them had contracted lycanthropy and would turn into a were-chameleon on the full moon or whatever at the end of every month. And during this time, we also discovered that there's a vampire living in our fortress who would drain dwarves of blood. And after a lot of tedious investigation, we managed to isolate the vampire.
I remember you were like, "Oh, we found a dead guy. Did the were-chameleons get out?" No, that's not what happened, because the were-chameleon's there. Yeah. And then you're like, wait, I got a new migrant. He's got tons of social skills. You're a vampire!
No, he was 10 times as old as everybody else. He had 144 kills to his name.
Signs your dwarf's a vampire.
And he was a masterful liar or something like that. I was looking at his skills holy shit, you were the guiltiest looking vampire I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
It wasn't me. I'm not a vampire.
So I drafted the vampire and the were-chameleon into a squad. Because that's the only way you can directly tell your dwarves. So, you need to go to this place.
I need you here now.
I need you go to there.
And so I sent them into a room, and then we sealed that room shut and disbanded the squad. And so the were-chameleon would get hungry and thirsty and become incredibly miserable, but then at the end of every month would transform into a were-chameleon and then transform back, and then he would be fine and not hungry or thirsty anymore.
Which, awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Can't starve to death.
And then vampires just don't become thirsty or hungry. So they just live together in a featureless stone box for a very long time.
Yeah, it was most of your fortress's life.
But I found this to be incredibly vexing because the were-chameleon, when he transforms, is classified as berserk. It says that under his thing on the unit screen. And so I just assumed obviously he'll fight the vampire. He'll attack the vampire.
It'll just happen.
No, they just chill out. There's just a were-chameleon and a vampire in a box.
The way you put it to me is that the chameleon seems to be staring at the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, they would just chill out. And so finally at one point I was investigating moving the vampire into a different container, and I had drafted him into a squad to move him. And I had no other military at the time, and if you put someone in a squad when you have no military, it automatically makes them the captain of the guard. And it was while I was...
He's in the room yelling at the door, "Look at me, I'm the captain now."
So it was...
Yes, I'm the captain!
So it was as I was doing this that the time of the month came for the were-chameleon, and he transformed, and now that he's the captain of the guard, he knows it's his duty to fight the were-chameleon. He knows that it's the job of the captain
And
of
he
the guard.
just fucking rips him in half, right?
No, other way around.
Yeah.
Other way around.
We were putting bets down, and after Owen explained to me exactly the physiognomy of a were-chameleon, I was like, 100% were-chameleon like rips this dude's to pieces.
Yeah, because like, to be clear, this vampire was a very skilled fighter with swords.
But he didn't have a sword.
Yeah, well, I didn't give that guy a fucking sword.
Are you kidding?
So the were-chameleon just like fucking
It
butchered
would have
him.
been great to like walk up to the door, throw a sword in, like, do it.
No, fuck that guy.
Yeah, so he killed the vampire, which was great. Because I kept having this problem where if you have a captain of the guard, your dwarves will, if they've witnessed a crime, will go try and find the captain of the guard to report crimes. By like, hey, guess who's been doing the murders in this fortress? Mm-hmm. It's the vampire!
So
I had all
you
these...
basically put him in the, what's the Matt Damon movie?
What the... Interstellar.
The cider house?
No, the one with the
Born Identity.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Where they're in Boston and they're cops. Fuck you.
Infernal Affairs.
Yeah, Infernal Affairs.
Hunting.
Thank you. Good Will Hunting. I can't remember the name of the movie. I'm sorry.
The Departed.
Thank you.
Basically that.
You make him find
and
himself.
so dwarves were like canceling jobs to go report crimes to him and shit. Like it was frustrating.
Yeah.
And then like later when I tried to transport the were-chameleon, he got out and like killed some people. And like we put him down, and then I thought I had identified who had been infected, and I like put them away.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah. And then like I was like going about my dwarfy business, and I started getting like these alerts that like jobs are being canceled and stuff. And I go and look, and it's like, oh, someone's been killed. I'm like, oh, where's that? And I tell it to zoom to it, and instead of like up on the surface where people like normally encounter the were-chameleon, it's like deep in the fortress. It's deep in the tunnels. It's like in the dormitory, and I look and there's just blood in the halls, and there's actually like 3 were-chameleons now like running around the fortress, and it's like,
Yeah.
So
you abandoned that fort.
No,
right?
I didn't.
Okay.
Actually, I was going to get to that. There's a funny feature in Dwarf Fortress now. You can abandon a fortress, and that is like escape pods. Everyone leaves. Like this fortress is done. You can never come back. There's also a.
You can reclaim it now.
Well, no, that's not what I'm talking about either.
Okay.
You can surrender custody of the fortress to like the game. Basically, you can just say this fortress is a part of this automated world now, and you may do with it as you see fit. So I left it in this like bloodbath situation for like just the AI to govern out because I didn't have the heart to watch it.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Can you check in on it?
Conceivably yes, not anymore. I've since deleted that install.
Okay, so
yeah, tell me your lycanthrope stories.
So then we'll get there. I made
like
a few
underworld
decisions.
up in here.
I made a few decisions early on that helped me, that I was proud of.
But I just want to say, I fucking love that, like, Dwarf Fortress, it's fucking never werewolves.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
I've literally never seen a werewolf.
Never.
And it's never, like, troglodytes. It's always, like, swallow men with, like, snail shell shields.
Oh, there
like,
are troglodytes.
And, like, mushroom spears. Like, I'm more, like, definitely sure there's troglodytes. But it's always, like, fucking
That's
weird
not what
beast
people
men,
come to you with stories of.
Yeah,
like,
and like the forgotten beasts are never like, oh, it was a chimera. It's like, no, it was like a snail that shot dust.
Yeah,
and it had like bat wings and fly eyes. Sure.
I wonder if
that sounds like a demon from like fucking John Constantine.
I wonder if they've fixed the Forgotten Beast perfect build.
Oh,
because like Forgotten Beasts can like they can come in all these different shapes and forms and like materials and things like that. And it's like if you're a blob, if it's a blob body, it's immune to like half the damage types in the game.
Okay.
And if its body is made of metal, it's immune to the other half of damage types in the game.
So a metal blob is immune to everything?
It's just like this sphere, like this blob of steel comes oozing along, and it's like, what do we do?
you leave. Like
you try and put it in a magma trap.
Yeah, trap it in a room.
Yeah.
The Forgotten Beast gets the fort. That's what happens. You tried hard enough. You get the fort. We're leaving.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, so we embark, and it's me and my 7 dwarves, and we're chilling, and first thing I start noticing going bad, there's some fucking monkeys.
Oh, monkeys are great, though.
Yo, they were taking my stuff.
Oh, yeah, they will do that.
They will do that.
They were taking my
They'll
stuff.
steal your shit.
So, I killed the monkey that took my stuff.
Cool.
Most monkeys stayed away for a while after that, because I killed a fucking monkey in front of them. So then, we built a wooden wall around everything. A little one. Not very big.
Okay.
Like maybe 10 by 10.
Did you know that monkeys can climb?
They didn't climb the wall.
Okay.
It never happened. I was watching.
Okay.
So I built a wall with a door in it, and I was like, cool, this will work for now. Right? Like, if I need to, I'll do more. So then, like, we dig in, and we build a farm on the first floor, digging deeper, and start building, like, you know, a dormitory and workshops and whatever. And, like, 6 months in, I get an embark of 21 people.
A migration?
A migration of 21 people. I'm like, that's
Cool.
a lot. The sliders have changed since I played this game. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna need more food. Like, I go into, like, all right, how are we gonna deal with this? And, like, 3 more come in next quarter, and then somewhere in the winter, a were-marmot shows up.
Nice.
Yeah. And so he, like, ends up murdering a couple people before I got everyone inside, because I didn't know how to do that, but then I figured it out.
Yeah.
And then I locked the door, and he's just, like, wandering around on the side sniffing stuff, you know, doing his thing. And then he leaves, and I'm like, okay, we'll open the door, I guess, in the springtime. And so, like, we had a couple cycles of this. We're like, okay, all right. Well, I get another couple of, like, 20-person,
Dark waves.
yes. I get 20 more dwarves for, like, 3 quarters in a row. So now I have too many dwarves and not enough food. And we're always making drinks and still are out of them. You know, like, I'm like, I got 2 problems. I got a were-marmot and too many people. Let's mash these together.
Too many dwarves?
Right. So I made a squad of, like, 20 dwarves and sent them outside the door.
Sure.
And was like, fight him.
Sure.
Fight that bitch!
They didn't have anything.
So here's the funny thing about, like, werebeast math.
Yeah.
Is the equation you would imagine is 10 military dwarves plus 1 werebeast equals 0 werebeast.
That's not how it
But
works.
actually, you can end up with 11 werebeasts.
Yeah.
Anywhere in between 0 and 11 werebeasts with that equation.
So he kills most of them, but he gathers a few friends. I think it was 3 or 4.
Wow.
So they leave, right?
Yeah.
They do whatever, they leave. And I'm like, huh. Alright, we're not letting them in. Like, not doing that. So we keep going. And I get a bunch more dwarves and have to sort of, like, let them in around these dudes, which I managed to do, which I was, like, proud of myself for systems mastery on that. And like, all the time, like, we're still low on food, we're eating cats, like...
Sure.
Damn.
It's pretty desperate.
You know how to harvest plants outside, right?
Yeah, but I didn't want them outside with the werebeasts.
Well,
Like,
the werebeasts, like, show up not all the time.
I wasn't trusting them, okay? So...
And if you killed the one that's visiting your fortress, that makes a huge difference. Granted, you have your own now, but...
So I'm managing this pretty well, and then I accidentally leave the door open.
Oh, okay.
And then he gets in.
And they all got in, all 4 of them.
Because these are the ones that he owns now.
Yeah.
So, do you remember that scene from King of the Hill where Dale goes into the vents and he, like, rolls around on the inside of the vents?
Cockroaches,
It's kind of what I'm imagining a were-marmot would do, but, like, instead of ants, it's dwarves.
In my mind, it was the scene from 30 Days of Night where they just track through the town while the vampires are killing everyone. It was that in my head, like...
Yeah, werebeasts, like, no matter what, don't let the animal that they are, like morphing into, like, deceive you. All werebeasts are fucking dangerous.
No, and I
as
knew
fuck.
that. Like, I knew that, and I tried to deal with it. And I dealt with it through systems I had never played with before, right? I'd never done the military stuff. I'd never, like... I dealt with way more of this game because of this.
Yeah,
so you know what's super annoying? Werebeast ghosts.
Oh, sure.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So if they die on your fortress, it's your responsibility to give them a gravestone. And I'm like, look, Dick, you came here. Like, fuck you.
Go haunt your people.
Like, somebody else make you a gravestone, you fucker.
So like,
and also, my were-elk was like a child. So it was like a child's ghost that would turn into a were-elk, and it's like, man, I don't need this. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, so my fort was also given to the game.
Oh, yeah.
in such a way to be like, I don't want this anymore.
Get back to the world it came from.
That happened yesterday, so I'll probably jump back in because I actually enjoyed like working with more of that game than I had before.
So I made a second fortress, and I was sort of thinking like, so the way it always happens when a werebeast shows up is like they go murk like your dwarves that are like chopping wood or whatever, or that your dwarves that like to be outside, right? So I was thinking like,
weirdos.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build a big perimeter wall on the surface, and we never have to go outside it. We can chop trees from inside it. It's so big that we can just harvest lumber that way and like harvest plants and the other things that we do outside. And like, it's going to be great. And so I went to this embark that has this enormous 10Z level waterfall.
Oh, man.
And we built like a drawbridge going across it
Nice.
and like the wall and like it's going great. And it's like, this is great. Why didn't I do this stuff before? And on one corner of the interior of the wall, I made like a little sub wall to keep all my animals in. Because if I'm out on the surface, my animals can graze now. I don't have to butcher them immediately. I can shear them and make cheese. And like, this is great.
Right. Here's all these things I was limiting myself from.
Yeah, and so my fortress is going swimmingly. I have like 120 dwarves. It's going great. I'm getting along great with the elves, weirdly enough.
Even though your fort's made of wood?
Yeah, well, but it's not made of that much wood.
Come on, guy. Like, look, we got 120 people here. We only chopped down like 50 trees. It's fine.
Yeah, so
And we stopped doing that.
yeah, and so like they'd show up and they here's the thing that's cool about elves, like a reason to not make them your enemies is they are really good at taming animals that you don't get to tame.
Okay. And then they come trade them with you?
Yeah, and they'll bring them in
cool.
cages and sell them to you. So I bought giant bears from them. And when I say like giant bears, I don't mean that like bears are big. I mean the way that like a giant ant in 1950s science fiction is giant.
So wait, how big are these bears?
I'm not sure. I think they're about the size of an elephant.
Oh, that's so
gigantism in this game is
cool.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's huge. So I had a giant grizzly bear and 2 giant black bears in my grazing pasture, and they're domesticated, right? So like it's cool.
They're not eating people.
They're just chilling out, and I had a goblin invasion show up, and like whatever, like we retract the drawbridge and whatnot, and like my dwarves are just living out their life because we can still chop wood and harvest
You're
plants.
just giving them the finger over the wall.
Yeah, doing this thing, and like, hey, this is cool. And then I see that all the animals in the animal pen have the panicked icon on them, or at least a lot of them do.
Oh no.
And there's a goblin corpse in the pen. I'm like, well, how the fuck did that happen? The goblins are outside the wall. And this is like, it took me a few hours of playing to discover that like climbing is like a skill that all people in the game can train. And that when a goblin invasion comes, some of those goblins may have trained their climbing skill.
Okay.
Probably not all of them. The goblin invasion wasn't really able to like get in my fortress, but like 3 goblins were.
The goblin ninja attacked you.
Yeah, and so one of them climbed into the giant bear pen and got like fucking ripped a new one, which was awesome. Like none of the animals in the pen had sustained wounds. The bears just laid them out.
I gotta say, I love goblins.
Yeah,
Like
they're great.
just as a concept, it's like I've always been very disdainful of zombies, but like goblins, they have like lives, but they're very petty lives.
Oh yeah,
Right, and like when you kill them, you take that away from them, so it has this more value in like doing that, right?
In Dwarf Fortress, if goblins
are the best value trash.
Yeah.
In Dwarf Fortress, if goblins abduct your children, they'll take them back to their own place. And if your fortress, like if you play the game long enough, they will raise your child as one of their own and bring them with them during
On the
raids.
war party?
They will have a dwarf that thinks it's a goblin and speaks goblin and uses goblin scourges and like goblin weapons and
That's
things
rad.
like that.
Like, that's rad that's built into their social engine. In
But
the
also,
game.
you have to like play Dwarf Fortress for like 20 years in game.
Right, because the dwarf has to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad news, bud. You're not living forever.
Anyway, so I was pretty over-optimistic with how effective my military was, and I opened the gates at one point and tried to fight the goblins.
Oh, it didn't go well.
Yeah, that fortress had some problems. And then, like, another goblin siege showed up where, like, more of the goblins knew how to climb over walls. And so, like, that fortress then also became abandoned. And I had to do some researching on the Dwarf Fortress wiki on how to build walls that can't be scaled. There is some funny Dwarf Fortress physics regarding that.
All right. So, I mean, we've been talking about
Build like a wall.
Dwarf Fortress for a while,
And this is the story.
But this is the kind of thing that Dwarf Fortress does right. right?
Yeah.
It does, like, better than any other game I've ever played, including, like, CK2 or any of those other Paradox, like, character-focused games that, like, generate these crazy-ass stories. Dwarf Fortress does it better than any other game, right? So we've been talking about for a while, like, what Dwarf Fortress does right. Hey, what's not so great about Dwarf Fortress?
Nothing. It's actually a perfect game.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really impenetrable. At first, and like I was sort of getting it. It's a bit like riding a bike. I was like sitting back down and like remembering muscle memory, like key combinations. Like you were talking about, like I don't even know the buttons that do stuff. I just do a thing with my hand.
Yeah, I don't know what the menus are.
Yeah.
I just like there's an internal logic to like all of the interface that once you start to understand.
Once you speak Dwarf Fortress.
But like learning that language is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found myself like remembering the things I used to know how to do, and then I had to go scour the menus.
But that would be the one negative thing I would say. I don't actually mind the Unicode like thing anymore.
Yeah,
that bothered me at first, but like once I've learned how to look at it.
The way I always like, whenever people are like, oh, I don't want to play Dwarf Fortress because like it looks bad, or like I need to get one of those mods to make it look good, and it's like, to me it always sounds like that fucking kid in high school is like, I don't want to drink the beer, it tastes so bitter, and it's just like, oh come on, drink like 10 beers and like fucking get over yourself, like, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah, so for me it was like when I didn't like the graphics in Dwarf Fortress, it wasn't that they didn't look good. It wasn't like an aesthetic thing. It was like simply, it was just impenetrable.
It's visually impenetrable at first. Yeah,
it was like I was always looking at it. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at, right? But as playing it more, it's more good. But so do we want to talk about Tarn at all? Does anyone want to say anything about Tarn?
He's charming.
Tarn's a cool dude.
He was at a panel at PAX last year. Talking about Dwarf Fortress and Patreon, because that's how he supports himself, largely. And they did like a questions section, and I just like asked him, because like he's been working on this forever. Like it's hard to work on one game for 10 years.
Yeah, it's hard to work on anything for 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I at the question part, like I asked him like, hey, so like, how long are you going to do this? Because, like, I want him to do this for the rest of his life. Because I love the fact that Dwarf Fortress gets better and more interesting and complex every time I download it.
Yeah.
But, like, I also know that, like, Tarn Adams doesn't fucking owe me anything.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. And he basically said, like, he likened himself to the Blues Brothers. That they are on a mission from God and they're just going to do it until they can't.
Okay.
My understanding of this after you told me is that Tarn is in a strange mood, right?
Yeah.
Like, Tarn is the dwarf in his workshop building this thing.
Yeah.
Like, that structure in the game, every once in a while, a dwarf who crafts things will go into a strange mood, and he basically locks himself in the workshop and demands people bring him shit because he's going to make some dope-ass stuff.
So the version numbers for Dwarf Fortress supposedly represent what percentage of all fantasy world things he wants to have simulated are present in the game. So, like, right now we're in the mid-40s.
Okay.
So, like, in Tarn's words, the game will simulate about 45% of all reality that he wants to be represented in Dwarf Fortress.
That's cool. I forgot what I was going to say. Shit. Final thoughts on Dwarf Fortress?
You should play it.
It's good.
So, right. I remembered what I was going to say. Yeah, the entry price is super good. But I was going to say, so I was having a conversation. I work with kids. Right now I work with middle school aged kids. And one of them was, they showed me a picture and they're like, look, it's a bunch of like mythical creatures. And it was like a wizard and a leprechaun and a unicorn and like one other thing that was magical. And I was like, that's not a mythical creature. Pointing at the wizard. And she's like, no, wizards aren't real. And I'm like, no, wizards are absolutely real.
Yeah, they live in Tennessee.
Yeah. And she was like, no, that's not what I was talking about. And she was like, no, but they, like, sure, there's wizards, but they don't do, like, spells, like magic spells. And I was like, sure they do. They do magic spells all the time. I honestly think that Dwarf Fortress is, like, fucking magic. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, like, it's not like miraculous things are happening or like magic is happening, right? But like things that you could consider to be magical, like, yeah, like, I don't understand how a human mind just was like, and then this came out, right? Like, it's ridiculous. That's magic.
It's insane.
That's fucking magic.
It simulates, like, the level of simulation going on is crazy, like especially in like the world generation where like before it even puts people on your world, it'll do like hundreds or thousands of years
Well,
of
so second
geologic
it does
history.
a bunch of geology first.
Yeah.
And then it does 200 years of a civilization.
Yeah,
group.
yeah, well,
And it does,
That was
and
the
it-
first thing you said to me when we sat down and started playing. It's like, oh, Matt, your geology like words are gonna go through the roof. You're gonna know so
Oh, yeah.
many geology words after this.
Yeah, like I remember when my parents lived in Washington D.C. for a while. I delighted in seeing the minerals at the Smithsonian that I recognized from Dwarf Fortress. Microcline looks very pretty in person. It's a good looking.
Yo, and that
stone.
museum's dope.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah. Yeah. Dwarf Fortress is good. You should play it. I think in a book club format. So like you should get other people to play it with you.
It's good to share.
Because I think it's very much like not playing it, but learning it is very much its own like language.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anyone to speak that language with, you're gonna bounce off of it.
Yeah, I mean, we had
Right.
multiple nights where we were all playing it in Discord together.
I think it takes a force of will or a powerful force of attraction to learn to play this game in a vacuum by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
So
agree with
like playing it with a group of people where you're all gonna like get together periodically and talk about it would be
Or
I
talk
think-
about it on a Discord.
Yeah, that's gonna be like parallel play with this game is I think the way to go.
Also, use the wiki. The Dwarf Fortress wiki is incredibly
it's
good.
fucking good.
It's incredibly helpful and very concise, and is also very funny. A lot of wikis are very stiff and don't have a sense of humor. And
No, Dwarf Wiki's good
yeah,
in that variety.
there's a
All
lot
right,
of dumb
It's
crap in
time.
there.
It's time for the Not Real Game Awards for Dwarf Fortress.
All right.
Boys, how many Todd Howards out of 5?
None.
0.
0 Todd Howards out of
It
5.
is the antithesis.
I 100%.
I know I've said that before, but
yeah,
like
no, but like I 100% agree
Did
with
you
it.
hear the disgust with me saying none?
Multiple things can exist in that sort of limbo zone that is anti Todd Howard. That's
Yeah.
fine. How many Brendan Chunks?
ooh,
I like one or two.
I'd give it 2.
2.
Yeah.
All right, I'm cool with
Because
that.
that guy does like systemsy stuff sometimes. He's part of the cult of Far
Like,
Cry
there's,
2.
there's something in there, right? Like, yeah, I know that's a real thing.
That's
Yeah.
a hell of an order. Like-
That's a real thing.
Like, I'm not trying to dunk on people who like Far Cry 2. Like, I respect it, but like, there is like a certain.
There's a systems
Yeah.
worship
There's
that goes on there.
There's the I'm gonna delete my save if I die type dudes.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, those dudes. Yeah. Nina Freeman's? How many Nina Freeman's?
Mm,
We already threw a couple on the bonfire, right?
But like, to me,
Because it generates personal, emotional stories. I mean, Owen cusses at this game regularly. I don't know, at least one.
I don't think it gets Nina Freeman's. I think it gets Jake Solomon's.
yeah, I'd agree with
So I'm
that.
gonna have to add that to the
No,
list
it's
now.
just a substitute this time around.
No, it's too late.
But
Okay.
You said it. It's
All right.
happening.
All right.
Wait, should the awards be limited only to devs of games we have played for? Well, I guess
No,
That's
because-
that's already tarnished.
Yeah,
I
that's
suppose.
already way gone. So no Nina Freeman's?
0 Nina Freeman.
Zero Nina
Nina
Freeman's.
Freeman's.
All right. So how many Simon Vicklins?
Uh,
At least one though, because it's Armok, God of Blood. Like
yeah, but the music in Dwarf Fortress is like the most non-Simon Vicklin.
all I'm saying is at least one.
Dwarf Fortress has the most delightful looped guitar music.
Yeah, it's wonderful, but the spirit of the game can get in that visceral like
Okay, I'll give you one.
14-year-old at Hot Topic like fucking.
All right,
Okay,
whatever, you can have one.
No, the game itself, the way it describes things itself,
Yeah.
is that.
Menaces with spikes of Simon
Is
Vicklin.
that. Like, yeah, like...
All Simon Vicklin's ship is of the lowest quality. All right, how many Sawyers? How many J.E. Sawyers?
I don't know. 1 or 0. I don't know.
Okay.
Nothing about this game jumps out to me as very J.E. Sawyer-y.
Okay, this is a tough question. How many Jeff Bezoses?
Get him off of that.
None.
That doesn't go there.
It does go there.
No. What did we ever give a Jeff Bezos to?
I gave a Jeff Bezos to something.
To what?
I don't remember. It's in there.
Dude, none.
All right.
How... Are we to Jake Solomon's yet?
No, Turn Adams. How many Turn Adams?
5.
5.
Well, can it be how many Tarn and Zach Adams is?
It's Tarn Adams. That's what it says.
5.
5.
How many Jake Solomons?
2.
2? Okay. I'm fine with
Because it does the thing that XCOM does, where I'm like, I'm just gonna play this game. Oh, emotional investment. Oh, tragedy.
that. Also, like, suddenly it's 5 a.m.
Yep, that
Yeah.
too. Yep.
Like, Dwarf Fortress got me to start staying up till like 1 and 2 in the morning again on work nights.
All right, so I'll tell you what, Owen. I'll only mention the Jeff Bezos Award on games we hate.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I'll do you a solid.
We haven't really had a game.
No, we haven't. We haven't had a game we hate for quite some time. But
and that episode's lost to time.
Well, not all of them. There've been multiple games we hate.
Yo.
Flashback.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Lisa.
yeah, I liked Lisa.
No, I'm deciding now we've all hated it.
I liked Lisa a lot. But anyway, I wanted to talk about very briefly. Pillars is an amazing game. I'm having a really good time.
Oh yeah,
It still annoys me that combat doesn't end until all the bars fill up. Like you have to wait for everybody's fucking refractory period, and then combat will end. And it's like, come on, I want to loot this shit and move on. Anyway,
that does sound annoying.
Ruins the game loop for me.
Speaking of annoying game loop things,
this was the pain for you people at home.
So I've been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege lately.
Mm-hmm.
I heard.
And there is a term that you may have heard in first-person shooting.
Yeah, he's lit.
No, not that. Called drop shotting. So Rainbow Six Siege allows one to crouch.
So you say drop shot, and I immediately think of the power up from Metal Slug that makes your bullets
drop shot.
Yeah,
no,
drop shot.
No. So you can
sounds like pooping your pants. Or
you
something.
can
Kinda
crouch
like that, yeah.
and you can lay prone in Rainbow Six Siege. Well, one thing people like to do is turn a corner, go, oh shit, there's a guy there when they have inhuman reflexes, and they lay down and shoot at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is their hitbox collapses to the floor, meanwhile, they're shooting up and down yours on the way down.
Sure.
So you get fucking murdered, and the game does this thing where when you get killed, it zooms in on the person who killed you from where they were to tell you.
So it zooms in on the crotch.
It zooms in on them, like, contorting in a way that makes this entire experience even more frustrating. Because presumably their hitbox follows their limbs, which go into their torso very often.
Yeah, this is part of that. Have you ever seen that Twitter account, Super Mario Broth?
Yes, it's like that.
The Super Mario Broth will often highlight weird ways in which character models deform in Nintendo games when performing specific animations.
Yeah, yeah. So not only is one a shitty thing to do from a competitive angle, right? Because like you're utilizing this bad system in the game against people, but also it's incredibly infuriating the way it graphically shows you this right after it happened to you.
So it's like they cheated, they win.
Yeah,
and you're like, fuck you, fuck you, game.
Exactly.
God.
So they're working on patching it out. Like it's gonna go away soon.
It's the salt in your cut.
But when you run into it, and like not everyone does it. And everyone agrees in the community that people who drop shot are pieces of shit. Like, it's a thing.
Sure.
But you run into it, and it's awful.
Okay. So how visceral is the reaction? Like, do we TK this dude and spawn next round, or like what? What do we do?
No, because like people who drop shot are usually defenders who roam away from their team, so no one on their team sees it.
No, but you like tell them.
You could, but like it's just a shitty thing people do.
Cool.
Like.
So
there's other battles to have in that game.
It's not
like,
to that level, right?
No, and like it doesn't work all the time, but it's just like, man, don't be that guy.
It's like the fucking chicken dance people do in PUBG where they're like,
yeah,
and they're like leaning all over the place, and you're like,
they're like a little amphetamine monkey.
Yeah. And it's like, you really think this is gonna help? All right, man, sure, whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, like. You're having a good game, it's nice and fun, everyone's having a good time, drop shot. Fuck that guy. Like, no good.
Alright.
So, I forgot whether or not we had unrealized dreams that we needed to talk about. Do we?
I'd like to be employed again.
Okay, that's not really...
I want them to make a game that is a fusion of a traditional Pokemon game and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
They already did that.
Nah, but that one sucked.
Okay.
I want a good one.
Okay. So it's like, no, do it better.
Which one sucks?
Well, it's called like Pokemon Nobunaga's Revenge or something like that. Basically, they bolted Pokemon on a previously existing Tactics franchise.
Okay.
And what I would rather have them do is make like a top to bottom like normal Pokemon game where you go throughout the world and go to gyms.
I thought they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, whatever. Yeah, but like Pokemon, but without the fucking terrible
You said
Pokemon battle
Nobunaga's
system.
Revenge, and Nobunaga to me is the boss in the first level of Tenchu, so it became Ninja Pokemon.
Well, he's like an ancient Japanese general.
Yeah, I know, like he's actually a dude, and
He's
there's
the
a lot
dude
of
who
context
made the
there.
nation of Japan.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I get
he's
it.
their founding father.
But
He's
my
their
brain
Thomas Jefferson.
goes back to playing Tenchu when I was 12.
Every time.
All right, so Keenan gets a chicken hat.
Yep, because as much as my fort was both fun in the regular sense and fun in the Dwarf's Fortress, capital F failure is fun sense, I didn't make it 2 years. So
2 years was the goal that Owen set for us. I don't know if we ever said that on air. But...
Yeah, I think
we did a couple times.
Yeah. Whatever. We'll say it again. But anyway, Owen, where do they find us?
If you want to contact us, you can send us an email at bladplaystyle@gmail.com. And if you want to get at us on Twitter, Keenan, what's our
At Bad Playstyle.
At bad playstyle?
Yeah, that's us.
That's our Twitsy.
That's our Twitters.
Twitzies.
What are we playing next week, Matt?
We are... hold on. Before I say that, I just want to say one thing. The other day, there was a can of olives in my kitchen, and somebody put it down on a note that already said poop on it.
Completely accidentally.
And that's how I feel about olives. Olives are poop. Like before you put them in your mouth, not after. And we're playing Into the Breach.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Alright. I'm into that.
See you in the Breach.
Wait, what is Into Breach?
They'll find out. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell them. Into the Breach is the FTL fellas' next game. It's a mech kaiju fighting game where the kaiju animals that are coming at your city tell you in what way they are going to destroy your city if you let them, and then you have to react to that every turn.
Way into everything you just said.
So, like, they telegraph all their moves every turn, and you have to, like, puzzle piece react to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So...
And there's like no hit percentages, right?
Yeah, it's just like everything just does.
Yeah.
Right? It's super, like, I love everything about the design. I love everything about the aesthetic.
And, like, FTL was fucking great.
Yeah, it's got the FTL, like,
that.
pixel graphics. It's fucking wonderful. And I'm really into it, and it's $15, and you should play it too, and talk about it next time on the podcast.
Yeah.
You should send us emails about how olives are actually good, and Into the Breach, like, what
we'll
you
read
thought
them
about.
aloud. I'll read them.
Yeah,
to Matt.
if you send us an email, Owen has said he will read it aloud. He has to read it aloud to us. So anyway, see you.
Bye!
Bye, everybody.
Bye, friendo. Our theme music is made by my good friend Benjamin Busey. You can find his SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/basicbenji206.